My name's Rachel and I work at Trenchmore Farm. My parents set up Trenchmore Farm 12 years ago. I'm involved in all of the non-farming activities that we do here at Trenchmore, so running our yard shop, the monthly supper clubs and seasonal food and drink markets that we do. I look after all the customers and I help make Silly Moo Cider. They started with 15 cows and 11 seals. We now have a herd of about 450 head of cattle, and we are producing about 80,000 litres of cider every year. We planted our orchard in 2012 and got our first crop of apples in 2015 and made our first batch of Silly Moo Cider in 2016. Silly Moo Cider is a very minimum intervention cider, so we do as little as possible and let nature do the rest. In our orchard, we planted 19 different varieties of cider apples. We wanted a kind of halfway house between the two, so we wanted the character and the complexity that you get with a West Country scrumpy style of cider with the kind of more easy drinking flavours that you get with the East Coast styles. In order to get a cider that has a really nice balance of flavours, we grow traditional cider varieties. We also get apples from our apple swap, where people bring us the fruit that they've grown in their gardens and we swap that for bottles of our cider. And we buy in more eating and dessert apples from a farm called Ringdon Farm, which is just on the East Sussex-Kent border. So by blending all of those together, we get a really lovely balanced cider, which has complexity and has a bit of mouthfeel, but is also completely delicious. In theory, making cider is a very simple process. You take the apples, we pick them, we wash them, we scrap them, which is the term used for just blitzing, and then we let them macerate overnight to get better juice extraction because the fibres break down a bit, and then we press them and get the juice. Then that juice is put into IBC cubes, which are 1,000-litre plastic tanks, and left to ferment for about 6 months. If you were doing this in a more industrial way, you would use temperature control to speed that up, but we just use the wild yeasts that are found on the apple fruit. We think that that is a really nice way to develop flavour. After about 6 months, we will then pump all of that fermented apple juice off of the yeast and then pour it into our big steel tanks and let that mature for anywhere up to 2 years. And as a result, we've got 2 very delicious, very appley, very juicy ciders that are made up of pure apple juice.